All right, welcome this afternoon. You got me, Jeff Kasmer, and I am talking to Carly. So, Carly, can you introduce yourself to some fellow students and alumni?
Yeah, my name is Carly Collums. I was in, oh gosh, what, 2108 front end, and now I'm a UI engineer at Crowdstrike, and I will have been there for a year in 2 weeks.
Okay, awesome. Now, as like a F1 fan, is the main thing I know about CrowdStrike because it's on Lewis Hamilton's helmet. What is CrowdStrike? What does CrowdStrike do?
Yeah, we are a cybersecurity company. We are actually the leading cybersecurity company in the country. Our biggest competitor is Microsoft, but we like to think we're better than Microsoft. So basically, we can do all end to end cybersecurity. So you could have someone do everything for you, or you can just have a platform on your machine. I work on the product team. So my app is a customer facing app within our platform.
Mm, super cool. So, okay, you're doing front end UI focused work.
Mhm.
Let's go back to the beginning, or maybe not the true beginning, but steps before. Like, what were you doing before coming to Turing, and specifically, what made you say like, "I'm out. That's enough of this. I'm gonna go hang out with
Yeah.
these nerds."
I think it was a lot of things. I originally got my degree in marketing and art, which I quickly learned is a lot of sales related positions. I worked a lot in the service industry, so serving, bartending, and then I got a job actually as a technical recruiter and on the salesy side. I quickly discovered that I would rather be doing the positions I was recruiting for. And I just wasn't really a salesy person. I liked the puzzles and the fun stuff that I was talking to developers about. Um, and so I actually attended a try coding weekend at Turing when it was still in person in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after that, COVID happened and I lost my job. And then shortly after that, my sister was actually diagnosed with cancer and she's great now. She's healthy. But I moved to take care of her and my niece while she went through treatment for about 8 months. And I think during that time, you just really, I mean, and everyone during COVID kind of just took a look at what they were doing and what they wanted out of their life. And that's kind of what I did during that time. And so while I was taking care of her, I applied to Turing. And when she was all better, I attended. And here I am now.
That's pretty amazing. Where was she when she was doing her treatment and all that?
She lives in Austin, and I'm in
Okay.
Denver.
Yeah.
So I just moved down to Austin. We had to be very strict because she was going through treatment during COVID. So it was really the most quarantine you can think of. So a lot of self reflection time when you're just sitting in a
Yeah.
600 square foot apartment.
Y'all must get along well as siblings too.
We do.
Yeah.
There were definitely fights, usually over really stupid things like me not liking chicken. So but we are really close, and that time made us even closer.
Yeah, I believe it. Like, what an experience. So, did you start touring when you were in Austin, or you waited till you were back in Denver?
No, I actually waited till I got back to Denver, and then I took the summer to just serve at a restaurant and save up some money since I hadn't been working for 8 months. And then I attended. I guess it was like 4 months after I got back from Austin.
Right. And what was your experience like in the program? I guess if your main kind of technical exposure was doing that recruitment work before, what
Mhm.
did you come in like, hey, y'all, I got this, like it's gonna be great, or was it like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here?
No, I mean, I didn't know anything by any means. I do think being a technical recruiter helped with knowing vocabulary and like
Mm,
what the front end versus the back end is. Because we did have to learn a lot of that when I was a recruiter to be able to talk to engineers. But as far as coding went, the only things I knew were what I used to do on Tumblr and MySpace. So nothing crazy.
yeah, totally. And what was like particularly surprising or unexpected about the learning experience, the turning experience?
um, I don't know if anything was surprising just because I talked to a lot of alumni and I feel like they're very honest about how difficult the program is. I think if I didn't know that going in, I would have been like, wow, this is incredibly challenging and time consuming and mentally very taxing. But I think knowing all that information going in kind of prepares you. But I think the thing that surprised me the most was how mentally taxing Mod 4 was. Because I think
Hmm.
that the the curriculum gets easier in Mod 4, you're not learning as much, but I think mentally that starting that job search and people around you getting jobs and feeling like you're almost competing with your friends is mentally very taxing.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, when you're in mod 2, you know what's coming next. It's mod 3,
Mhm.
right? And when you get into mod 4 and all of a sudden it's like, what's coming next? I don't know.
Mhm.
Scary, mystery black hole of the job hunt, and like how long is it going to take? Is it going to go well? Is it going to go poorly? Just that anxiety, it definitely degrades people's ability to focus. And
Mhm.
there's even been discussion at times in Turing of like, what if we got rid of mod 4? Like maybe we should just end at mod 3 and go straight into job hunt. And it's like, if you did that, mod 3 would just look like mod 4 because you'd just be stressed out
Exactly.
the whole time or whatever. Or if there was a full mod 5, then it's like mod 5 would just be the place where you stress out all
Yeah.
the time. Whatever, the transition itself is what brings about all that anxiety. And
Mhm.
as you got into that spot and beginning job hunting and so forth, was the recruiting background like useful to you? Did you have like the cheat codes and secret handshakes to technical people that got you a job?
Yeah, I do think that that played a role into me finding a position. I mean, I know it did because the person that referred me at CrowdStrike used to be one of my clients that I recruited for. So I think I'm lucky in that sense, and I also have a lot of experience with resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn profiles, knowing what interviews look like. Because as a recruiter, I would sit in on those interviews, and I knew what the managers wanted to hear. So I know it's not what people want to hear, but I do think that I did have some of those cheat codes and got lucky knowing the people that I knew.
Yeah. Okay. So what are one or two or three things that people should know about applying for jobs that either they don't know or they maybe don't listen to? I think sometimes job hunt advice just kind of like goes over, not goes over people's head, but it's like they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll totally do that," and then they don't do it. Like what
Yeah.
are the two or yeah, what are the two or three things that you like would most tell somebody to do?
I think as far as like landing an interview, I know people say it over and over again, but networking is really the best thing you can do. I don't think cold applying really gets you anywhere. I think, especially as a recruiter, I primarily use LinkedIn. So it comes down to networking and having a really good LinkedIn profile that has all those keywords that are going to get you seen by people.
Mm.
Um, and so even though I knew someone at the company I work for now, I spent a lot of time doing donuts, and every interview I got was from those donut chats. I wasn't getting
What's a donut?
interviews in Turing, the little coffee chats with people.
Yeah, the
Um,
Let's Get
so
Donuts channel.
yeah, the donuts channel. So I really utilized that, and that's how I got every interview that I had.
Huh. Yeah, it's always interesting to me when we talk about networking. It's like, does Turing networking count? And when people, often I'll end up talking with job hunters who are struggling in their job hunt. And they're like, I've been networking. I talked to this alum and talked to this alum and talked to this alum. And for me, I mean, sometimes it's going to work out. That's great. Networking with Turing alums is kind of like calling your cousin and being like,
Hmm.
hey, you have any job? It's like, if they had all kinds of jobs, they would have told you already, or they would have told
Yeah.
us. Like, were you able to do any networking, like more broadly? Well, I guess you had like your past client connections and that kind of thing. Like, what does networking look like when it's not just alum to alum?
Well, I will say some of that alum to alum, for example, one of them, they didn't have a job position, but they mentioned that their partner worked somewhere. And I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
can I talk to your partner who was not a Turing alum? So I think it's just a lot of it is active listening and hearing when you hear an opportunity that they might not have explicitly said to you, but you
Yeah.
can take that and run with it and talk to additional people. I do think that, like in Denver, at least, the Denver Tech Channel, Denver Devs is a great place to start. I know they meet up every month, and that's more of a low key environment. I actually attended a couple of those when I was a recruiter
Mhm.
because, great place to meet some devs.
Yeah.
So I think reaching out to alumni is like reaching out to family, but I also think you can reach out to people you do know that are in any industry because those industries still need
Mhm.
developers, even if
Mhm.
they are not a developer. So that was something I started to do as well, is just reach out to people that I knew and see if their company had any openings in the engineering department. Um, as a recruiter, I always appreciated when people reached out to me on LinkedIn, even if they didn't know
Mm.
me. And I did that as well. And especially if a job posting says who the recruiter is, message that recruiter. They appreciate it. We don't want to dig around in LinkedIn to find people.
Mm.
So I
Yeah,
think that is beneficial.
I think there's definitely a lot of value in what you're saying about people referring you to other people, because like the way our minds work, right? If you talk to person A and you're like, "Hey, person A, do you have a job?" Then it's like yes or no, they have a job. Blah, blah, blah. But when it's like person A, could you maybe introduce me to person B? To person A, it costs almost nothing. And to
Hmm.
person B, I think there's like a subtle trick in a way that gets played to person B's mind, which is like, oh, person A thinks you're good enough to meet me. Like, person A has your implicit endorsement. Cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
Come apply for this job we got. Like, versus just knocking on person B's door and being like, hey, I'm looking for a job. It's much better to get that handoff. And I think something we've been talking about, especially in the last couple of weeks, is we all know like a lot of tech companies are laying people off, sure,
Hmm.
and that's unfortunate. It's stressful for a lot of people, and companies that are not tech companies but have technical teams are largely hiring. And
Hmm.
so yeah, you're someone you knew from college or someone you knew from high school or someone you knew from a past job or whatever, who's working at a health services company, they might still have a development team, or it's some
Hmm.
retail company, they might have a development team or whatever. And those intros can be just as or even more valuable than talking like knock it on the door with just an application at that company,
Hmm.
for sure.
For sure.
Um, Now that you've been in this job for a year, what have you learned about doing this job, these kinds of jobs? What's like matched your expectations and what's felt like a surprise?
I mean, I learn every day, and that doesn't just come down to coding, but processes and what this job looks like. And I think something that surprised me was how many meetings I'm in. I guess when you go into this, you expect that you're just coding all day and you kind of get to do your own thing. There are days where I'm in meetings all day long, talking about the code that you're going to write, and I think that's
Mm.
something I wasn't necessarily expecting, but it also is kind of one of the satisfying parts, is like talking about the architecture of the code and what it's going to look like, and talking to the back end team. And I think that it just really reiterates how important communication is in this role.
Mm.
um, and that a lot of people and a lot of developers are introverts, myself included, but you still do a lot of communication on a daily basis. You're not just sitting in a basement by yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and I think to me that's particularly relevant in a moment where there's a lot of fear and uncertainty about AI and other tools and so forth. And what I think you understand when you're in the industry for a while is like the hardest parts of programming aren't writing code.
Hmm.
It's figuring out what people want, how they want it, when they want it. And then like writing the code to do that is usually like not that complicated. So when
Yeah.
AI can come through and like write code, it's like cool, fine. Can the AI go to the meeting and figure out what this person really wants? Maybe one day. But so
Yeah.
far, like, oh, now I'm thinking about could you make an AI that stands in for you in a meeting and would people know? Like, okay.
Probably.
Like you could make a Carly deep fake that's just like going along, nods, type some stuff in the chat once in a while. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, but those professional skills, as you're saying, I think that's part of what usually does surprise people. I think we do a better job now of explaining it with Turing, of like, you can't just come and write code. Like,
Mhm.
that's it's not that that's not possible. You could probably go somewhere else and do that, but that's not the Turing way, because that's not what the job looks like. The job looks like
Mhm.
spending a lot of time with fellow humans, even through Zoom or whatever, and figuring out what the hell are we doing here in the first place? Like, what is
Mhm.
the real challenge or opportunity behind what we're building? I think that, yeah. So I'm glad you're like getting to see that, and it's not
Yeah.
just, I think I do worry sometimes for folks who are in entry level developer positions. Like, maybe they don't get included on those conversations, and instead they're
Mhm.
just like getting stories through the Jira or whatever project tracker. Like, that's not
Yeah.
real software development.
I do think I'm very lucky in the way that I work on a very complex product. So the conversations sometimes, take weeks to even discuss what we're going to do. And I also am very fortunate that our application is only a year and a half old. So we're
Mm.
just working on new feature after new feature with a small team where we need more people. So the juniors are definitely utilized.
You better watch out. Everyone's gonna be knocking on our door now. I heard you say you need more people. Um,
We need more seniors. Now we have too many juniors on our
yeah,
team.
yeah, it's always finding that balance. Do you think you'll be programming in 5 years? Why or why not?
I do. I really, really enjoy it. And I think about this also in the way that you could go down the IC path or the manager path. And I
What's an
just
IC path,
love
if people don't know?
independent contributor. So you're just a coder, you're not managing people.
Hmm.
Um, and I always see myself on that path because I love like making a ticket or merging a PR and like seeing those changes, and it brings me a lot of satisfaction on a daily basis. So I don't really see that changing in the coming years, and I think I'll be on the IC path for a while before I would ever want to manage people.
Yeah, managing people, it's like an interesting job. It's not at all related to the job of writing code.
Hmm.
And it's unfortunate. I think, especially in America, I don't know that much about business culture in other countries, but we have this habit of like, you're good at that thing, come do this totally unrelated job and see what
Yeah.
happens. Like, ugh, managing is its whole own beast. If you could go back maybe 3 or 4 years to a younger Carly, and you had like 2 minutes to whisper some of these career advice and insights in her ear, what would you tell her?
Oh gosh. I don't know if I would change anything that like wanted her to do because I really love where I am now and the path that I'm on. But I think just really always focusing on communication and people skills because that's not only what's going to land you a job, it's what's going to make you successful as a developer is being able to have conversations and communicate what you are trying to say. And that's a skill in and of itself when you're talking about code. Being able to explain what you want or what you're writing is extremely important. So if you're at Turing right now, working on those skills is going to take you so much further than memorizing all the array methods that are possible.
1,000% agree. Right. And yeah, I guess like hooking back to what I was saying about AI and so forth is, yeah, the exact functions, the enumerables or whatever, like, those are not the things that differentiate a successful developer from unsuccessful. Yeah, like, you need to know that stuff. That's kind of table stakes to like get into the conversation. But
Hmm.
the difference between like struggle and success is really, yeah, about like, how do you communicate? And it is interesting to me to think about how programming is can take lessons, at least, from general communications, right? And marketing
Hmm.
and fiction writing and so forth. And like, a lot of those same principles, like one of my friends used to say, like, code in paragraphs, right? And like, right, if you have a method that's, or a function that's a bunch of lines, it's like, cluster them into paragraphs and then think about, is this paragraph really something I should pull out to a different named function or whatever? And
Hmm.
yeah, I think communication, it's not, I think sometimes when we say stuff like communication is key, people interpret that as like it's important to be nice, and it's like communication and software isn't just about being nice. Like, yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
be like, don't be a jerk, but it's more of like the communication is the tool, is the like ether in which we figure out what we're doing, why we're doing it,
Mhm.
how we're going to do it, not just like, I don't know, following some script of like
Yeah.
how
Well, and it's
people.
really easy for miscommunication to happen when you're building something because everyone can be on a different page. And then no one realizes you were all on a different page until someone asks the right question.
Yeah, or you
And
build
that's,
it and then the person is like,
yeah,
no, 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 no.
that's
Not like
wrong,
that. Why would
which
you
you
want
don't
that?
want to happen. You
Yeah.
want those to be answered before you've built the entire feature. So that's why it's just so incredibly important.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing some of your perspective and experience with everybody today, Carly. And it was really nice to hear more of your story. Of course, most important thing, we're happy to hear the sister is doing well and healthy. And also, now you're on this rocket ship uh, trajectory with the technical career. So I look forward now to your, I don't know, 4-year interview, 5-year interview. We'll do it a couple years down the road.
Hopefully, I won't be a manager.
Hey! People can be managers. I'm still cool. I can be a manager. So,
I know.
all right. Well, thank you very much.